Turn it on, Cliff Live tonight. Latest news, it's feeling right. Kamala speech so tight, yet no answers in our sight. Trump is shouting wild and loud, felon tales beneath the cloud. Cats and dogs beware, my friend. Springfield rumors never end. Cliff Live bringing news to you. Tune in now, it's fresh and true. Politics with humor strong. Stay informed and sing along. Headlines coming fast and free, comedy in what we'll see. Kamala dances round the press, questions left in quiet stress. Trump's wild claims make us think, cats and dogs on Pizza Rink. In Ohio, who can tell? News and laughter mix so well. Cliff Live bringing news to you. Tune in now, it's fresh and true. Politics with humor strong. Stay informed and sing along. Is shouting wild and loud, felon tales beneath the cloud. Cats and dogs beware, my friend. Springfield rumors never end. Cliff Live bringing news to you. Tune in now, it's fresh and true. Politics with humor strong. Stay informed and sing along.
All right, just set up a little bit here. Go back, get all my settings correct. Got a little bit of a cold still going on. I was hoping it wouldn't last very long, but we still here. We still here with the cold. All right, there we go. I don't know what's been going on with YouTube, but my notifications are not going out very well. It takes it like 15 minutes. I don't know if it's because I took a job and they didn't like that I wasn't streaming for like 4 days. They're like, we're not gonna bless you with our notifications anymore. What's going on with it? I don't know, but that's YouTube's prerogative. Apparently they don't like me anymore. I mean, they never really liked me to begin with, but that's how it goes. I've already had 2 cups of coffee, and now we're gonna dive into the Monster sugar-free classic. You know, the green can, got the ginseng flavor. Definitely love that. Whew. And then still working with my coffee brand. Check it out. I got the back here too. Still working on it, plugging along. Hopefully, be making more improvements in the coming month. I think what I want to do is add flavors. You know, I have 3 different roast levels so far, but really what I want to do is add flavors into this and make it, you know, just a lot of options. I want to add cold brew, you know, that kind of stuff. That's my plan. Just make it the best I can. I'm gonna get a better web page. Right now it's just a basic Shopify web page, but I want to actually go all out and like make a really good one. That's in the making. We're just not there yet. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. All right, so Dave Ramsey got Trump to come on his show. He did also invite Kamala. she declined. Dave Ramsey has been really critical of Kamala in the past, so maybe her PR team thought that would not be good for her at all. But he did get Trump on, which is a little weird. I'm not used to him having politicians like this on his show. And I'm hoping that he will hold her accountable in the same way or hold him accountable in the same way that he would hold Kamala accountable. So I don't want this to be like a political fluff piece here, even though, he's a big fan of her. I just hope, he asked the hot question. So they're calling it, can Trump's plan clean up America's final financial mess? And sorry, I got a little bit of a cold here, but I'm just curious to see what's actually going to go on. So let's go ahead.
This inflation thing's a big deal. So in the first 90 days, the strokes that you make to change the economy when you're elected, that's pretty dramatic.
I believe I'll be able to get energy down to 50% of what it is right now within a period of less than a year.
I know small businesses are where jobs come from. When you guys in government can take your hands off of small business, we're able to employ people and change things. So how can you help small businesses?
You have to love what you do. If you don't love what you do, it's not going to work. It's the largest tax cuts in the history of our country. That's why we became so successful.
You think
it's funny.
You think we can do that again?
Yeah, I think we can go lower. If I don't turn my head at the exact 90-degree angle, if I was a little off, I'm not doing this very nice interview with you.
I hear you going back to Butler and finish the speech.
I am. I'm going to say...
It's exciting. They have the suspense already there and the music. I'm a fan of Dave Ramsey, even though I don't agree with him necessarily like everything that he preaches. Probably like 95, 97% of it, he gives good advice. He's typically conservative, like I said. So let's see what's actually going to go on here.
Hey guys, Dave Ramsey here with The Ramsey Show. If you don't know what The Ramsey Show is, it's a show about life, about money, about relationships. It's not a show about politics. We specifically over the years have tried to remind you over and over again that what happens in your house is more important for your success than what happens in the White House. We also realize that this election is a really important time right now. The people are really looking at what's happening. There's a real divisiveness in the air, a lot of anger in the air. So
for sure, just look at my YouTube comments. Oh my God, if you criticize one area of a candidate that they are in love with, like a cult, they just go ham in the comments. They hate you. They say the meanest thing they can.
Team reached out to Vice President Harris's team about the opportunity to sit down with her for a long-form interview, and reached out to President Trump's team about the opportunity to sit down for a long-form interview with him and to talk about ideas, talk about what's going to happen, not what has happened, and not about personalities and not about name calling, because both sides are pretty good at all of that stuff. And the fact that I sit down with either one of these candidates is going to piss some of you off, and frankly, I'm perfectly fine with that. It's something I wanted to do, and I felt like it was something we needed to talk about. So I find myself sitting here in Trump Tower, getting ready to interview President Trump for a few minutes. I think you're going to find this really interesting.
I dig it.
So President Trump, thanks for taking time to sit down with us.
Thank you.
Honored to be
very
with
much.
you. Good
Thank
to hang
you,
out
Dave.
with you. As you know, we do a show called The Ramsey Show and talk to regular folks every day, calling in most of the time with financial trouble, sometimes
Right.
with financial victories, stuff we've taught them to do, the basic grandma's common sense stuff.
Right.
And that audience that's going to be watching this they're not concerned with a lot of things, but they are concerned with $8 eggs, $5 gas, 7%
They should
interest
be.
rates, and a house they can't afford with wages not going up as fast as house prices. This inflation thing's a big deal. So in the first 90 days, the strokes that you make to change the economy when you're elected are a big deal. What's the first things you're going to do on that?
Well, in
front?
terms of inflation, you're right. And it's almost inflation over the economy, if you want to really know, because people are getting wiped out like never before. I think it's the highest inflation we've ever had. They say it's the highest in 48 years. I think it's...
Every time I watch a White House press briefing for the past probably a year, they keep talking about how inflation has returned to normal levels. And they say this as a way to kind of, I'm winning, like I'm look at Biden, he's doing so great on inflation. But what they don't talk about is that it's just returning to what the average was. So I think inflation right now was like 2.9%. And they act like this is such a huge victory. Like, yes, it's actually coming back down to what the averages are, but they're not talking about the years before where it had spiked so much and you're still seeing inflation, that 2% that I mentioned. And the wages are not actually going up. So inflation is not down when they say it's down. It is returning to average.
It's the highest ever. There's never been any mess like this, and it's because of what they did with energy. Also, then they topped it with spending with money, that trillions and trillions of dollars that they didn't need, that's being just wasted. But the first thing you have to do is get the energy down. If you get the energy down, other things are going to follow. You want to get the interest rates down too. And interestingly, even interest rates are going to follow energy, because it's going to take that burden off the shoulders of the economy and off the shoulders of inflation itself. And we are going to drill at a level that you haven't seen since, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago, but even more so. We would have been so dominant by this point. If you remember, when you go back to the beginning of this really failed administration that we're in right now, what they did was they turned off the energy. They turned off everything that I had
So you
built.
turned back on the Keystone. You're going to turn back on the drill, baby, drill line in the
It's drill, baby,
in your
drill.
acceptance speech at the convention.
That's true. The a Biden administration has gone back to Trump drilling plans just to alleviate that pressure in the economy.
It says it all. You know, I'd like to use another line, but there's no line that's better. And we're going to drill, baby, drill. But the fact that they turned it off, and then the energy, if you look back at the very initial period of their administration, the numbers started going through the roof, the energy numbers. Inflation was good. And then they went back to Trump, where they're trying to equal it, and it kept it bad as opposed to horrific. And it's been really bad, and the energy has been very expensive, but nothing like it could have been. So they went back to Trump-type things. But we would have been now 3 to 4 times more. We would have been dominating the entire world on energy. We have more than anybody else, as you've heard me say, but as you also know.
Right.
We have, I call it liquid gold. We have more liquid gold under our feet than anybody else. Actually, by far, we would have dominated. We would have been taking care of Europe. We would have been taking care of Asia. We would have been taking care, Anwar in Alaska is the biggest find anywhere in the world. It could be as big as Saudi Arabia. And I got it. Ronald Reagan couldn't get it. Nobody could get it. I got it. It was done, ready to start. And when these people came in, they turned it off. They terminated it. Nobody could believe it.
I don't know if people realize that 10 to 15% of the entire economy is energy,
Right.
and it weaves its tentacles through everything else. So $5 gas
It
affects the
affects-
bread truck who's
yeah.
delivering the bread,
Yeah.
and that affects the cost of the bread then. And so getting that plentiful
Right.
changes everything.
So I have a little thing that I've been saying lately, because I think it's easily achievable. We pay very high energy costs, and especially now, but we're paying very, very high. I believe I'll be able to get energy down to 50%, 50% of what it is right now within a period of less than a year.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a huge improvement. I don't know if he can actually do that, though. Trump is not a Republican. He's just using the party as a political tool. Loyal Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, and Independents are voting Harris walls for democracy and freedom. Are they now?
It's going to happen fast, okay? It's going to happen fast.
Well, what are you going to do to do that? What causes that?
They're going to drill. They're going to frack. They're going to do things that they have tremendous
So
additional.
taking the regs off, taking the regulations off.
We have to. They put them back on. They put regulations back on. That areas that have no environmental real meaning, they don't let them drill. They're taking leases away, government leases that you're hearing about. I think we can get energy costs down to half of what they. If we do that,
That's pretty dramatic.
everything, all of those inflated prices are going to come down with it.
I think the other piece of that, and I know he was part of your administration, and you and I were talking before we turned the cameras
Right.
on, that we have a mutual friend in Art Laffer.
Wow, he's
and I know
great.
he helped a little bit with the tax code in the
did.
last administration. And I personally have experienced the Laffer curve, that lower taxes
Right.
causes increased revenues to the federal government because it heats up the economy. And I'm a small business guy. When you lower my taxes, it doesn't mean I put it in my pocket. It means I hire people.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so Talk about lowering taxes in the first year of your administration.
Yeah, you probably saw my plan, and I think we have something real.
I'm the same way. If I have lower taxes, I want to expand my business, and if it expands to the point that I can't manage everything anymore, I want to hire people.
Really good. I was yesterday in North Carolina, which is great. That was the furniture capital of the world. And China then went in and did a number and took so much of that business, most of that business. The talent, I used to go there to buy furniture for hotels and things.
Hickory, North Carolina.
Yep, in Hickory. I was in Hickory yesterday and made a speech. And we're going to bring it all back. What we're doing is there's sort of a two-phase. Number one, I took taxes from 39% to 21%. You know that better than anyone. It's the largest tax cuts in the history of our country. And that was great. That's why we became so successful.
It's funny. You think we can do that again?
Yeah, I think we can go lower. And I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm bringing it from 21 to 15, but you have to manufacture your product here. And then you pay 15%. And then I'm going to put tariffs on countries so they can't come in and steal our business, so that our businesses now can be competitive. Not that, China came in and just stole all our furniture and many other industries, by the way, including steel. And I saved steel by putting 50% and 100% tariffs on all of the steel that they were dumping. But we're going to do, so in other words, this is a dream for you then. We're bringing the tax rate from 21. Remember, it was 39, and it was really 50 if you add state and local and all of the other things. So we're going to bring it down from 21 to 15. I got it down to 21, which everyone said was impossible, and got it approved by Congress. So it's there. And we're going to bring that down to 15, but you have to make your product in the United States.
Yeah. And we do see federal revenues go up when the taxes go down because the economy goes.
You saw it with me.
We saw it with Reagan, too.
You saw it with Reagan. So at 39% and then down to 21%, you would think would do half, or you'd do.
This is a little weird for me. I don't know. I never thought I would see this interview. It's just kind of odd in a way.
Much less. In the first full year, we did much more revenue in the United States than we did at 39. In other words, we took in much more money.
Which is how you solve the deficit. Bill Clinton almost balanced the budget with the exact same principle.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. He did. And cost cutting.
Yeah.
We have plenty of cost cutting to do.
Obviously, the flip side of this argument is going to be, they're going to cut taxes for all these corporations, but that's the trickle down theory isn't going to work. It's not actually going to fall down to the little guy. These people are still going to be struggling. They're not going to be able to afford anything. All that kind of issues are going on. What's going on, Paul? Afternoon for me. Just hit afternoon.
Too, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's
in fact, I'm going to ask Elon, who's a great guy, but he's a pretty good.
That was a great interview.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great interview.
Yeah, it was.
That was some interview. We did pretty big numbers. I hear we did like 900 million people or something. That was a pretty good. But he's a great guy, and he gave me a full endorsement and all of that. But he's got a good sense on that. There's tremendous cost cutting that we can do. And affect nothing. We're not going to affect anybody. We're not going to hurt anybody. We have to save Social Security and keep it good and solid. I don't want to be raising ages or anything. I don't want to do. They're putting migrants into Social Security. When they get finished, they are. If she got elected, this country is going bust. If she got elected, we're going back to 1929 depression. It would be a disaster for Medicare, Social Security. They're allowing millions and millions of people to come in. You can't use these schools anymore. The quality of life in this country has gone so bad.
So he's talking about migrants getting Social Security. I don't know if that's actually true. I did quickly pull this up. This is from the Social Security website, and it says, under what circumstances may a non-citizen be eligible for SSI? It says a non-citizen, also called an alien, for immigration purposes, may be eligible for supplemental Social Security income if he or she meets the requirements of laws for non-citizens that went into effect August 22, 1996. And I'm just wondering what those qualifications are. To be in a qualified alien category and meet a condition that allows qualified aliens to get SSI. All right, so who's qualified? It says you are in one of these categories. All right. Lawfully admitted for permanent residence in the U.S., which includes Amerasian immigrants, granted conditional entry under Section 203A7. Okay. Paroled into the U.S. under Section 212. Refugee admitted to the U.S. under Section 207. So I'm granted asylum under. Okay, so yeah, just looking at the Social Security website, yeah, he's right. They are giving these immigrants Social Security, and I mean that's directly on the government webpage. So there's really no arguing with that.
Because of what they've done.
One of the things that our viewers know about us, we work with tens of thousands of small business people. And so coaching them, 54% of the gross domestic product is businesses 500 people or less.
Yeah.
Almost everyone in America, over half, almost 60% of people work for a small business. And I know small businesses are where jobs come from, not from government. So politicians don't create jobs, small businesses do.
Small businesses
kind of pisses people like me off when when the politicians say they're one's making the jobs. We're the ones making the jobs. But when when you guys in government can take your hands off of small business and allow us to do our thing, we're able to employ people and change things. So how can you help small businesses?
Well, the best way is just letting them do what they have to do, but we still have to give them a playing field. If we don't give them a level playing field, they will die. And that's what happened before. That's why China came in. That's why they came in, and they came in at a level like nobody's ever seen, and we did nothing about it. So the word tariff to me is a very beautiful word because it can save our country, truly. And yet, I think because of graft, because of a lot of consulting payments and other things that given by other countries, we have so much fighting with politicians on using it. I saved our steel industries by putting tariffs.
Honestly, it's tough to get SSI, SSD even as a lifelong citizen. I mean, I've never gone through the process of applying. I'm just looking at what the qualifications are. And when you look at those qualifications, a lot of these immigrants coming in would qualify based off what the website's saying. Now, I would agree with you, like, when you apply for these government programs, they say something on a website, but it's brutal to actually get the benefits. I mean, take like unemployment, for example, just the struggles of if you lose a job and then you have to apply for unemployment, they make it so hard to actually get those benefits. So I'd like to think that's probably the same way, but I've never used it, so who knows.
Tariffs on steel that China came in and dumped. And you know what they do? They dump and dump and dump. Everybody goes out of business. Then they buy those businesses very cheap, and then they raise the prices to higher than they ever were. That's one of the many benefits that they have if they want to do it. But by putting tariffs on, as an example, in the furniture business in North Carolina, it was so vibrant, and they stole our business. And they charge us, if you wanted to build a furniture place, if you want to sell your
I've been working on it for a while. Unemployment or SSI?
Furniture in China, they won't take it. But if you want to build a plant in China to make furniture in China using their labor, they open it. We're doing the same thing. But a lot of people are, we don't want to have tariffs. The country was at the richest point in its history in the 1890s. It was all tariffs. If you looked at William McKinley as an example, he was a big tariff president. They had committees that were put in charge of what to do with the money. We were taking in so much money. And McKinley would say, why should we let other people come in and steal our factories and steal our workers and steal our jobs? And why shouldn't we benefit? And
Social Security. Oh, yeah. And even then, one thing I learned just last month, that when you get the Social Security, they tax it. So it's like they took it out as a tax, and then they tax it when you get it as income, which I completely blew my mind. I thought that would have been completely tax-free as a disbursement from the government. But no, you're still paying taxes on it. Makes no sense to me. And I can tell you, even like the unemployment, when I got out of the military, you're qualified for unemployment, as long as you're honorably discharged and everything there is on the up and up. But even then, they find every way they can to try and deny you. It's bureaucracy. There's so much like red tape to go through. It's hell, absolutely, to the point that they make it so frustrating that it's like a system designed to make you give up. I think that's their plan. Is like they want to make it so complicated that people just give up and they can just keep the money, which sucks because, you know, you lose a job, or like me, you get out of the military, you want that money. They take it out of your check. It's like theft, you know, taxation is theft. But when you look at the benefits in Florida for unemployment, it's only like $250 a week, which does what? If you lose a job, what is $250 really going to do for you? Maybe you get food, but you're screwed. You really are screwed. That's not going to pay for your rent. It's not going to pay for much of anything. Done unemployment a few times in my life too. Yeah, it's a struggle. It really is a struggle. And just going down to the unemployment office and seeing the system there, it's awful. It really is. Seeing the frustrated people trying to get these benefits that they paid into, it's terrible, man. It really is. And it makes me look at these programs like I would rather them just cancel the program and just give me the money. Let me make that investment on my own, and then I'll build my own safety net. Why are you taking all this money from me? Just do the responsible thing and save money. I gave up for quite a while, but now I have no choice. That's what I'm saying, man. The people, they need the money, but it might be a year before you even see it, if you even qualify. They've made a system where they want you to give up. That's the thing. They're trying to make you give up.
Tariffed the other countries. And we made so much, and then they went to the income tax system later on. But they would actually they had a blue ribbon committee. Our country was so rich, they didn't know what to do with the money. And this blue ribbon committee was set up to determine how can we spend all of this money. And they took it in through tariffs. But we can turn our country around, make it strong, and then guard it with tariffs.
Yeah. Let's change gears for a second. My wife Sharon and I were in Scotland 2 weeks ago, and we played bunch of different courses there, including Turnberry.
Good.
Which arguably, according to the golf guys I was playing with, is the nicest course in the UK right now. And certainly the halfway house, the lighthouse out
Isn't
there.
that good?
Turnberry's amazing.
Yeah.
But what I came away with, not only is the golf course great, just to give you a huge compliment,
Thank you.
you know that, but the staff and the team, the excellence in the hotel, in the restaurants, in the golf shop, everybody we dealt with. Talk about what it's like to work for Donald Trump. How do you hire leaders and put people in place that do that? Because I know you're obviously not there personally managing that, but you put a culture in place in your organization, and that applies to the administration as well, hiring people that are quality leaders.
Well, my son, Eric, is very much involved, and he runs a lot of it. And Don helps out a lot. And Ivanka, to a lesser extent, you know, she's a great mother and everything. She did a fantastic job in the administration. All she wanted to do is get people jobs. And she'd go around and see Exxon and see Walmart. She wanted jobs for people. It's really pretty amazing. She could have had a very glamorous job, and she would have done well. But Eric's done a great job. And I did a similar type of job when I was doing it. Now I'm doing a thing called running for president, so I don't get. But we rebuilt Turnberry. Turnberry was considered one of the greatest courses in the world because the land is so incredible, right, with the ocean, and you know that ninth hole over you're hitting over the ocean. How good a golfer are you?
13.
All right, that's
not great. I'm
That's
just learning. I've
actually
only been playing 5 years. I'm just learning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Enjoyed you and Bryson's 50.
Wasn't that
That was
great?
fun. That was a great video.
That one did well in
did.
terms of the ratings.
It did. And he can swing a club, too.
He can swing, and he's a great guy. And he is very long, very straight. And you know what? He's a great putter.
Yeah.
One of the best putters. He's one of the best putters in the world. That was quite an exciting thing. We got it down to 50.
You actually pulled one hole off. I watched it.
Yeah, well,
all rode on you. You carried one
even
in.
more than one hole, if you want to. But we did well. We did well.
You did. It was very fun. So, what leadership qualities, when Eric's hiring, did you teach him to look for?
Well, I like the recommendation business, but what I like best is taking people that are in the company and moving them up. You take a waitress as an example, and she becomes the head of the restaurant. You say, because you know if certain people are good. And when they work for you already, you know, it's better than recommendation. But if you don't do that, or if you can't do that for some reason, you really need strong references, and then they have to enjoy their job. If they don't enjoy their job, they're not going to be very good at it.
So I ended up at a table. Ronnie Barrett,
Yeah.
Barrett 50 Cal, is a friend of ours, and I ended up at a table with him at an NRA convention with Eric and Donald. Got to spend some time with both of them, and you're right, they're impressive. How do you raise great kids? What'd you do?
So
The grandkids are turning out.
These are different kind of questions that I'm not used to Donald Trump being asked these questions. So it's a different kind of interview. Actually asking like business questions instead of just, him running for president kind of questions.
Granddaughter killed it.
We have. Oh, how
at
good
the
was
convention.
she? Yeah.
Wow.
She's a great golfer, by the way. She's
a great speaker too.
She was good. She was a beautiful person in every way. She took over that whole Republican convention. And Kai, our beautiful Kai. So
What's your parenting
the
style?
one thing I always told my kids: no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. Now, in my day, there were no drugs. There was alcohol and cigarettes, and I had a brother that went through a lot with alcohol, and he taught me a lot. He really taught me a lot. And my brother, Fred, and he had a problem with alcohol, to put it mildly. And he would always, and he was quite a bit older than me, and he'd been through it. And he would say, no alcohol, I never want to see you drink, very strong. And he'd also say no cigarettes, but because, cigarettes are like, you don't need it. If you don't smoke, if you don't drink, you have no problem with staying off it. When you do drink it's very hard to stay off it. I mean, I've seen very strong people that cannot get off. But the way you get off is if you never start. If you never start, I never had a glass of alcohol in my life. I've never had a glass of alcohol, if you can believe it. I think largely because of my brother. I think if I did, I probably would have a problem, personality type, right? But I never had a glass. I have no longing for it. I have friends that are in the wagon, as they say, and I watch them watching trays go by. The tray is going by. Oh, it's like they have, it's a thing that they can't get over with. Same with smoking. It's tough. I've seen guys just grab somebody's cigarette. They haven't had one in a long time. And to them, it's like the greatest sensation. If you've never smoked, you just don't have that problem. So I tell people for their children, no drugs, no alcohol, and no cigarettes.
They obviously work really, really hard. How'd you teach them work ethic?
They have to like what they do. If they don't like what they do, they do. My kids like what they do. And I would say genetically, I'm a believer in genetics. I like it. I'm good at doing certain things. And, racehorses, like two slow racehorses don't produce a Kentucky Derby winner, right? That's not the way it is. But you have to have an ability at something. And if you don't have the ability, don't do it. But most importantly, do something you like, whether it's your parents.
That's something I struggle with right now. I love doing YouTube as a business. I love my coffee business and building that up. But as far as like the day job, it's okay. It's not my passion. It's just okay, It's something that pays the bills, but hopefully one day I will have more businesses and real estate that I can manage. I'm a numbers guy. I like doing that kind of thing. So it's just kind of getting to a place that I can get there.
So not, your parents want you to go into a business, or they want you to go into a store with them if they have a store. I would say that you have to love what you do. If you don't love what you do, it's not going to work. I've never seen it. If you don't want to get up in the morning and go to work. Now, a lot of people say, with all the people that come after you, do you really love getting up in the morning? You understand that, right? I'm attacked at left and right. But I do, because we make so much progress. We're doing great on the campaign, as you probably see. We're leading in the campaign now and doing well. We beat Biden, and we were up so far on him, and then they said, that's like a fight. You're in a fight, and they changed the fighter in the middle of the, right? In the middle of the fight, they changed the fighter. And now we're beating her very badly. I'd be so interesting to see her in your show, because I don't believe that she would be able to answer any questions on what you discuss better than anybody else.
Well, I'm happy to have her if she'd come.
I'm sure she would be. I'm sure she'd love to come. Yeah. She wouldn't come.
So I hear you're going back to Butler and finish the speech.
I am. I'm going to say as I was saying.
Yeah.
Right?
So when that happened and you get in the car, I know I saw a clip the other day that Melania was watching on television. So
Yeah.
she saw the shot, saw you dodge, saw you go down, saw you get up.
Yeah.
And how fast were you able to get on the phone and talk to her?
Well, I know she was calling, and I was a little tough to take a phone call with blood pouring down your ear.
Yeah.
People don't know the ear is the bloodiest part. If you get hit in the ear, it bleeds because there was a lot of blood. But no, I spoke to her by the time I got to the hospital. I spoken to her, and she was sort of watching it. She had it held off for a couple of minutes, and then somebody called her and said, "He's okay. He's okay." She said, "What do you mean he's okay? What does that mean?" She had no idea, and then she went back and pressed it and caught up. No, it was tough for her, tough for my son too. He came out. Somebody had said, "Your father just got hit." And he came in and he was very, very riled up.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing. That was a tough day, and I don't recommend it for anybody. I got very,
Doesn't recommend you getting shot. Okay.
very lucky, or maybe more than luck.
Yeah, if you don't turn
There
your
was
head and
somebody
start
up there.
talking about the immigration chart at the precise moment,
If
it's
I
a
don't
problem.
turn my head at the exact 90-degree angle, if I was a little off one way or the other, it's I'm not doing this very nice interview with you. I wouldn't be around to do this interview.
So when you were in the White House for 4 years, you were talking about loving your work earlier. I have the privilege of loving my work. That's why I still
You
work.
do.
That's why I still do it. I don't need to, obviously,
Yeah.
anymore, just like you don't need
Yeah.
to. What was the most rewarding thing in the 4 years that you were there for you?
That's a good question. I don't think he's ever been asked that.
So my whole thing is make America great again. All right, that's why I do it, and we did it. Then COVID came. We did a really good job on that. So it was always about making it great again. I had the country going just prior to COVID coming in at a level that nobody had ever seen. And even if you go all 4 years, it was so good that even with that terrible interruption that just destroyed the world, we had the greatest 4 years. The economy was so great. The job numbers were the best ever, et cetera. And I think just that concept of what I had done.
Just the performance.
Yeah. But individual things, getting the tax cuts approved, biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in the history of our country, rebuilding the military. We did a job in the I rebuilt the whole military. And then you see a lot of that military being given to Afghanistan stupidly because they left the country. I mean, and now you see them parading it back and forth. That was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, what they did. But there were a lot of individual achievements that we had. The creation of Space Force. Space Force is now dominating space. And when I came, there was no Space Force. The first time since Air Force, 78 years, maybe 80 years by now. And we are dominating space now. And we wouldn't be.
I knew a lot of people that switched over from the Air Force into the Space Force.
We were in third place by far. And now we're way in first place. And it's very important. Militarily, it's very important.
President Trump, thanks for taking time.
Thank you very
Your team
much.
told us you got to.
All right, before they start playing this music and give me a copyright strike. I think they already killed my stream, unfortunately, but that's how things go. So yeah, there's Trump interviewed by Dave Ramsey. Very, very odd. I really hope that Kamala does decide to actually go on the Dave Ramsey show. I think that would be really nice if she went on there. That was a no pressure interview. Obviously, they were very, very friendly. He wasn't attacking anybody. I think he would do the same thing for Kamala. I just don't think she's going to go on there because he's known to be conservative. All right. So now that YouTube decided to block my stream and kick everyone off, that's great. Hopefully they didn't give me like a copyright strike or anything. Check. See if anybody comes back, you know. No, I don't see anything. All right, cool. So we're still good. Kamala doesn't interview well at all. Her campaign team probably tells her not to take them. Yeah, you're not wrong, because she only does interviews where she knows they're definitely going to be on her side. Specifically, I'm thinking Oprah. That Oprah piece that she did was just propaganda, like straight up propaganda. It wasn't even like they were asking her questions. It was just scripted entirely. It was so bad. And it's kind of a shame because we don't actually get to see her real personality, like just somebody new sitting down, kind of feeling her out and, seeing what she's really about without the script. For me, that hurts her campaign for sure. The one thing you can't say about Trump is he's going on all these podcasts, just all these interviews. He regularly just calls into media, gives his opinion. Even if you don't like his ideas, you got to give that to him. I don't think I want to. I'm not a huge fan of Kamala. I get it. I'm not really a huge fan of her either, but I would want to hear her interview. Really, I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey. So even the questions he gave there were different. They're not your typical like people mostly ask the same questions and then Trump will repeat the same answers. He goes on his script as well. But this was a different kind of a format. So just sitting down with her, maybe talking like business, just seeing that side of her, I think would be good. I think it'd be nice. I wish she would accept this interview, but I don't think she will. She's only going to accept interviews from Oprah and people that are going to give her the questions beforehand and have her writers write the answers. And it's like, it's acting is what it is. What I don't want to see acting. You're a politician, you're running for a position of the people. I don't want to see you put on a performance. That's not my thing. Yeah, YouTube really did not like me playing that video. They completely killed my YouTube stream, which is unfortunate. But that's life. That is life, my friends. I'm gonna turn my AC off. I got a cold, and there's like a vent blowing on me, so I'm just gonna turn this off real quick. Put it on like 75. There we go. See how that goes. That way the air is not directly blowing on me and my cold, making things worse. I think my cold started with the fan blowing on me. Somehow that like dried out or inflamed my sinuses. For sure, Trump is in full campaign mode. I'm ready for the cycle to be over. Groundhog's Day effect is taking its toll on people. I mean, we don't have much longer. November is going to be here before you know it. It's already October. We're going to turn around and Halloween's going to be here any minute now. Thank God hockey and football have started to get you away from the politics. I love politics, man. As long as people aren't like yelling at each other, I love politics. You don't gotta insult people, you know. I enjoy it. People always yelling at each other. Yeah, I get them in the comments a lot. If you criticize one of their candidates, they go off on you. Even if you're trying to be unbiased, you know, you just point out something. It's like the world ended for them, so they got to attack everything about you that they can find. It's silly. It really is. But, you know, those people are out there. They're childish. So, you know, you just ignore them. Whatever. Block them. Even in party fighting. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so Tulsi Gabbard is going to give her perspective on how the VP debate went down. So I'm kind of curious to see what she actually has to say. I watched this yesterday, and my opinion, Vance won, hands down. There was Tim Walz, he came off like he was trying to be Vance's buddy. He seemed a little bit insecure. He was trying to agree with him more than actually be at a debate, which is normally fine. You kind of want that in politics, people agreeing, coming together and finding a resolution. Sure, I get that, but in a debate, you're really trying to see who is the better candidate. But one thing about that debate, it was more classy. You know, you didn't have Donald Trump there, so it wasn't really about insults. You know, they throw little digs at each other, but it wasn't, you know, too bad.
That steady leadership is what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him.
See, this is what I'm saying. That it wasn't like a Donald Trump insult, but just little digs, you know, and that's okay. You know, I'm not, or maybe it's just because we're so used to the extreme politics that we've had for the past years that this is just very minor.
Just Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos. Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. It is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine.
Yikes.
Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure.
Thank you for joining us again on News Nation. Let's bring in Tulsi Gabbard, former member of Congress from Hawaii, member of the Trump transition team. It's good to see you.
There
Do
she
you
is.
agree that this was...
They both avoided answering questions. I kind of expect that from politicians, especially when the questions are laser pointed into issues that they don't want to reveal the answer, even though we all know what they actually want to do. Politicians going to take jabs, part of the job. Yeah, totally agree.
Was refreshing in terms of how the two men treated each other and the conversation.
It was. I just wish the moderators didn't get in the way. I think the American people...
And the moderators did get in the way. At one point, they cut off Vance's microphone, which he was explaining something. I forget what it is now. I think it had to do with the Ohio issue, some of immigration. I don't remember specifically what they called him out. They said they fact checked him what they did, and he started explaining what the issue was, and they turned his mic off. The TV ads have had the most malice out of them, in my opinion.
Relish and look forward to the opportunity to hear two people who are talking about their different views on issues and the differences and contrasts between the two presidential candidates in this race. I want to point to the clips that you just played, because that captured one of the moments that stood out to me, that Tim Walz was talking about how now is a time where we need Kamala Harris's steady hand of leadership, and especially with what we're seeing happening in the Middle East today. He threw out a lot of words that tried to distract away from Kamala Harris's record. Her and
yeah, as Iran is firing missiles into Israel and all hell is going on right now, Israel's trying to decide how they're going to retaliate. They've already said they are going to retaliate. MSNBC called it mansplaining. What specifically did they call mansplaining? Oh, his response when they cut off his mic was mansplaining? How does that make sense? It's a debate. That makes no sense at all. Jesus, that's terrible.
Joe Biden's policy on Iran was one word: don't. That was it. Clearly, Iran did not take that seriously. And why would they, when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden opened the floodgates to make Iran have access to over $100 billion of funding that they didn't have access to under President Trump, which enabled them to fund Islamist terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, allowed them to gain hypersonic ballistic missile capability for the first time ever, just earlier in 2023.
Yeah.
And experts are saying now that Iran is likely to gain nuclear weapons capabilities, potentially even before the next president takes office. J.D. Vance did a great job in contrasting that with making the very clear points about what President Trump's foreign policy resulted in. No new wars, de-escalated tensions, and he did the work that a president is supposed to do in engaging in direct diplomacy in order to accomplish that.
Hey, Tulsi, I'm going to open it up to the floor in a second, but do me a favor while I have you. Aside from the debate, we have not seen the escalation, and frankly, I didn't even see it coming, with Iran firing 200 ballistic missiles, not the kinds of things we're used to.
How did you not see that coming? Tensions are definitely on the rise there. You just saw Israel planning explosive devices into cell phones and pagers, all of this craziness going on over there. It's chaos. There's chaos going on.
Seeing from Hezbollah or even Hamas. What do you think the decision chain is for the United States in terms of what you see happening next and what America is going to have to decide is okay or not okay?
Well, I have great concerns about what the decision chain is under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. I can't even answer that question for you. And today was a very good case in point of that. As Iran was launching these hundreds of ballistic missiles directly into Israel from Iran, at that very same time, simultaneously, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was calling for them to not launch those missiles, as though he wasn't even aware that that launch had already taken place. So this is one of the many reasons I have grave concerns that even in these coming months, heading into this election, about our own national security and the fact that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have us embroiled in multiple wars in different regions of the world, and closer to World War III and the brink of nuclear war than we ever have been before.
And they've already said that they're going to defend Israel. What that means, we don't know, because they won't tell us. They will not answer that question. They were asked in the White House press briefing what they thought was an appropriate response to Iran attacking them. And again, they would not comment. The only thing that they will say is that Israel has the right to defend itself, which leaves a lot of questions unanswered.
Tulsi Gabbard, this is Elizabeth Vargas here. I wanted to get your reaction to something that Donald Trump said today. He repeated that he thought we should blow Iran to smithereens. Do you agree with that kind of rhetoric and policy? Is that the best way to go at a time when we are on the brink, teetering on the brink of an explosive regional war in the Mideast?
I didn't see President Trump's statement today on that, so I can't comment on it, but I can comment on what I've heard personally from him, as well as what I've heard him repeat over and over again in every single campaign rally and event that he has, which is his commitment towards peace, to bring about an end to the wars that have sprung up, with the tensions that have escalated under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And again, I point back to his record as president 4 years ago. Look at the consequences, look at the results. His actions speak for themselves as to what kind of presidency he will have once again, should voters send him back to the White House.
Right. And also, it wasn't just Trump. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said it's, quote, not enough to simply intercept missiles and drones. It's time for the world's leading architects of terror and their proxies to face severe consequences. A lot of voices tonight speaking out in very strong terms about strong action that needs to now be taken against Iran.
Well, there has to be a deliberate thought process and analysis that goes forward. Anyone who is jumping to conclusions to launch any war in any direction should pause and understand what the cost and consequences of that will be. There's
No shit.
no question about the fact that we need strong leadership at this time. Israel is under attack, and they have been under attack for quite some time. Israel is responding to this. The United States supports Israel, and I believe that negotiations and dialogue should go forward in order to see how we can prevent a World War III or an increasingly escalated regional war breaking out.
And just super quick, do you think J.D. Vance did the job he was sent to do tonight on that debate stage? Do you think he won over any undecided or wavering voters?
No. If people were going to vote for Kamala, I don't think anyone's opinion was changed. He won. He definitely looked better than Tim Walz, without a doubt. He won that one. And honestly, it comes down to the politics of it, like what people actually are voting for. They already knew who they were voting for. This didn't change anything.
Yeah, I think he did. I think that the stakes that are placed on all these debates are often placed on them by people in the mainstream media, that whoever has the quote unquote best performance of the night is somehow therefore more qualified to serve in office. I don't buy that context. What I saw and what I focus on is that J.D. Vance did a great job of delineating the contrast between President Trump's record and his policies and Kamala Harris's failed record and her policies. But this isn't something that he just did as a performance on the debate stage. This is something I've seen him do in the over 100 interviews that he's done with journalists. Some friendly, most adversarial. He does it in his campaign speeches. And you contrast that with Tim Walz, who, other than his kind of puff piece interview that he did with Kamala Harris and CNN, he's done virtually no interviews, answered no serious questions from journalists, and has not held Kamala Harris's.
He said he was friends with school shooters. He's so bad, man. He's really, I don't know why they chose him. He's just terrible. He's like a little puppy dog that follows Kamala around. It's just so bad.
His record to account, and she has 4 years of a record that they're trying to run away from.
All right, Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, he called himself a knucklehead, and he insulted himself several times in that debate. It was just weird. The whole thing was weird. He was trying to appease J.D. Vance almost, even though he was debating him. I don't know. I don't get it. And I could tell he had a lot of anxiety, and I don't blame him. It's a big deal, obviously, in his career. No shots there, but yikes, man, it wasn't a good look. Not a good look at all.
Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tulsi, I I'm interested in hearing your point of view as a Democrat. How did Democrats and somebody who just has a hard time voting for Donald Trump, how do you think they approached this, and what do you think they came away with?
None of their opinions changed. Nobody saw JD Vance go out there and crush it and change their mind if they were a Democrat to vote for Donald Trump. That did not happen at all.
I think that anyone who watched with an open mind, sincerely interested in listening to what both JD Vance and Tim Walz had to say, probably came away with a very different and positive impression of JD Vance, as well as the policies that he and President Trump are putting forward, perhaps than they had before, because a lot of people are getting their information from the mainstream propaganda media outlets who are very, very clearly in the pocket of the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz campaign, just as we saw with these moderators here tonight. I think JD did a fantastic job in talking about these issues in a way that I could relate to, that were very real and really reflect the fact that both he and President Trump are listening to the American people.
The gays for JD might. I heard some shit about that. What did you hear?
You contrast that with what we hear from Kamala Harris, what we heard from Tim Walz, who had a really, really tough job tonight trying to defend Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's disastrous policies. But what we've heard from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden over the last 4 years is how great Bidenomics is, how when you look at the data, the economy is better. And they're so arrogantly dismissive of the reality of the struggles of so many Americans across the country who are dealing with the higher cost of prices in almost every aspect of the basic necessities of life. So
I don't think that's true at all. I actually disagree with her there. Kamala runs her campaign on people not being able to afford things, and then she comes out and she makes all these promises about how she's going to make life so much better for the lower class people. I don't think she's dismissive of those people at all.
I think that JD did a great job in communicating tonight, just as he has been, as he's done over 100 interviews in this campaign alone. We saw Tim Walz, who I think he's done virtually one interview, a puff piece with CNN, and Kamala Harris by his side. And I think he had a tough job, again, of trying to defend Kamala Harris's record and did not meet the mark of even trying to make their case to the American people in a very compelling and clear way.
What was the moment tonight that you would walk away and say that was an important moment? That was the line or the moment that will crystallize things one way or the other?
I honestly think there were a lot of those moments on every one of the major issues. One that I will point out that I think is really important really came at the very end of the debate, that I wish the moderators, had they been fair and neutral, that they would have focused on, because it is a very serious issue that we're facing, which is censorship under Kamala Harris that we've seen over the last 4 years. We have hard evidence that this has been taking place. And you have Tim Walz himself, who has said that free speech and the First Amendment is a privilege, and that it does not apply to misinformation and disinformation and hate speech. And the thing that he and Kamala Harris are not telling the American people is that they believe they're the only ones who get to decide what is misinformation and disinformation. If I had been a moderator at that debate, I would have asked about, well, okay, so you want to see certain hate speech banned because you find it offensive and hurtful and harmful. Well, would you then support banning then Hillary Clinton's hateful, offensive speech and labeling me a traitor to the country that I love and I'm willing to lay my life down for? That was deeply offensive, and it was also 100% false. So their double standard is very real. They want to protect speech that they like. They want to ban speech that they don't like. And JD was on point when he said, fundamentally, we cannot have a democratic republic unless we protect every American's right to free speech and encourage this vibrant marketplace of ideas where we can debate issues that are important to us, where more speech always wins and the best ideas will rise to the top.
That's a really good point.
I'll tell you that the freedom of speech thing and misinformation, disinformation is fascinating to me, mainly because of the amount of obvious lies that are told, and from a governmental level. But tonight, the Tiananmen Square answer was breathtakingly bad, but I'm not sure that makes a difference in America anymore, does it?
I agree with him. It doesn't make a difference at all. Nobody changed their votes.
I don't know. I think that Tim Walz and his team will sell it as, well, he stumbled or this or that, or he misspoke, which is what he's trying to say.
He's a knucklehead.
But yeah, which to me is just disingenuous. If you make a mistake, own it. Take responsibility for it. I think that's what we all want from our leaders. When you screw up, take ownership, be accountable, and talk about how you will be better. The fact that this free speech issue is not being taken seriously. Sorry, I'm going to keep harping on this because of what's happened just this week. People like me and Bobby Kennedy and others who've directly seen political retaliation because of our exercising of free speech. Obviously, this is personal and important to all of us, and we know that this election is about our right to free speech, among many other issues. But to see John Kerry sitting on that panel in the World Economic Forum saying that the First Amendment is the greatest obstacle to quote unquote effective governance. And he said this election in the United States of America is about free speech, and therefore it's important that they win and win big so that they can remove this obstacle and get back to consensus building and governance. Free speech is getting in the way of that. So even John Kerry is saying this election is about free speech. And just like the choice in this election is between the warmongers of Kamala Harris and Dick Cheney and the anti-warmongers of Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, and Bobby Kennedy, this election too is about free speech and those of us who believe strongly in it, even for those that we disagree with, and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz who are against free speech. These are things that all Americans should stand together on and recognize there is only one choice in this election, and that's to vote for Donald Trump.
So when you look at the free speech issue, it goes beyond just saying you can't say that. It is the total weaponization of this government, as you have experienced. Any updates on that with you?
The federal air marshal whistleblowers came forward and exposed the truth and provided evidence about how one day after I criticized Kamala Harris on a televised national interview, talking about how dangerous the consequences would be if she were to serve as president and commander-in-chief, the very next day I was placed on a domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies that almost nobody, including members of Congress, know much about. Given no reason why I was put on the list, there's no due process to say, hey, show me what you got and take me off
That's so insane.
the list. As far as I know, the last time I asked, I heard that the targeting package that the TSA built against me is still operational. I hope that Congress takes this up. I'm pursuing legal action, working with Jay Sekulow and the ACLJ, because I'm not the only one who is being impacted by this. There are many Americans whose names will never make headlines who have also been wrongly targeted by this administration, specifically because of their political views and their exercise of their right to free speech.
Tulsi, as always, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being as brave as you are. I for one, really appreciate you.
All right. Whew. Wild shit. Exactly. It is wild. Like, who would have thought, man? Who would have thought? I never would have thought things would be this bad. That's crazy. Absolutely insane. Oh, I missed Tulsi. You did. They shut me down, man. YouTube killed my stream. I was watching Dave Ramsey, and they shut me down. But I think my stream is back on YouTube now. Yeah, they completely like blocked me over there. It's pretty bad. How's it going today? Love that I'm not working. Can say that. That's the positive thing about today. I scheduled myself to get an oil change. Didn't wake up for that appointment, so I have to do it tomorrow. Other than that, things are going pretty good. Highly caffeinated. Still feel tired. But that's how things go. I gotta build a patio set today. That's on the agenda. But first, I kind of want to watch this Diddy interview. Because I'm not really on the up and up on everything that's going on with this. We can see if they're going to release the list for us. Make the video big here. Hopefully they don't block my stream too, because it's Fox News, but we'll see. If they block my stream, that just means the YouTube gods don't like me today. All right, so new Diddy update. These folks are going to come out here and actually report on new assault allegations that Diddy is facing, which should be pretty interesting. 50 Cent is making a documentary about this, and it's going to be released on Netflix, so I'm also really into watching that. I think that's going to be pretty crazy. It's probably going to be a little bit like the R. Kelly one, which I watched all of the surviving R. Kelly. That stuff was shocking, but I think this is going to be even worse. You know, 50 Cent is usually pretty good at like putting these things together, so we'll see. Chat says I have to clean my place. My son is finally moving out and possibly back to single living. Oh, that's a good thing, I would think. You get the place back to yourself.
We like the tough cases. We thrive in the complicated cases. We've handled over the last 25 years some very big and very important cases.
Okay.
I believe that this one may surpass them all. There are many facets to this. The conduct we will describe today occurred over more than 20 years.
Are they going to release the names of everyone involved in this? I don't think they will. I think they're going to keep that under wraps.
Many people and many entities involved. And we're going to follow this evidence wherever it takes us. We will find the silent accomplices. We will expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors. We will pursue this matter no matter who the evidence implicates. These brave victims who have stepped forward deserve nothing less. The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world. The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward.
What's going on, Goose?
Team has had at this point more than 3,285 individuals contact us with people claiming...
What?
People claim...
Did he say 3,000 people contacted him? Jesus.
Have been victimized by Sean Combs. After vetting, we now represent 120 individuals who intend to bring civil claims in civil court.
Okay, they brought the number down to 120. Okay, that makes more sense, I guess. But that's still... Diddy's cooked. He is not getting out. This list will never come out. Too many celebrities tied to it. It'll be locked away next to the E list. Yeah, I don't think they're going to actually report on anything. But maybe in the 50 Cent documentary, some things will actually come out through there.
Against Sean Diddy Combs, as well as claims against many other individuals and entities that we will name as defendants as we file these individual cases. And you should know, to the extent the clients feel comfortable,
yeah,
we also intend to make these individuals available to the authorities, specifically to the FBI. And you should also know a few of them have already been spoken to by the FBI. Now, before we discuss the nature of the claims and claimants themselves, let me comment on the large volume of calls we have received since our first announcement.
Are those victims behind him that are going to speak?
Even before the indictment of Sean Combs, we had received a small volume of calls and had screened a handful of cases. After the indictment of Sean Combs and the announcement that we were pursuing these claims, the floodgates opened. People who wouldn't otherwise, for a variety of reasons, are now stepping forward to make their voices heard and to pursue justice. But no, most of these people are scared. They fear backlash in their communities. They fear backlash in their own families. They are afraid of retaliation from the perpetrators and their associates. They are rightly afraid for their own personal safety. I expect that through this process, many powerful people will be exposed. Many dirty secrets will be revealed. We know what we are potentially up against. And as is always the case in situations like this, when a celebrity is involved, people can be downright mean and nasty.
What state is this taking place in? It's in Houston, Texas.
You would be shocked at the length fans will go, no matter the evidence to the contrary, to defend celebrities they love. I mean, there's a reason for this word fans. They're fanatics.
Oh yeah, everybody defended R. Kelly for the longest of time. He could do no wrong, but he was doing some creepy things.
I've personally already been threatened multiple times on social media. And when I agreed to pursue this, I expected as much. This isn't my first rodeo. But victims who step forward to have their voices heard should not be subjected to that kind of conduct. They should not be targeted. I want to say this, and I want to be clear about it. Although we are vetting each call as stringently as we can, I always start with a mindset that I believe victims. I believe victims because I understand the tremendous courage it takes to step forward. So if you're watching this, please hear me. If you're out there and you have been victimized, you are not alone. There is a great strength in numbers. You can seek redress. You can obtain justice. We can help you, and we will help you.
I wonder if they'll change the laws to expand the statute of limitations like New York did with Trump. Possibly, yeah. I could see that.
That being said, as stated, we are vetting every call that we receive. We have had to turn away some. For each, we ask for corroboration. For each, we ask for the identity of witnesses. We also have collected pictures, videos, texts. We check venues, we check dates. We want to corroborate that the claims being made have legitimacy and merit. We have on staff now a former detective from the Major Offenders Unit of Houston Police Department who is helping us vet each claim. We're using our common sense. We're being stringent because, as I said, these are not easy cases. They're very tough. The process is hard, and in some cases, the process is very lengthy. These cases are hard to prove. Many times it's the victim's word against the alleged perpetrator. Each of these victims will no doubt be publicly attacked by the alleged perpetrators, and in some cases, the general public. The feckless and cowardly keyboard warriors love to attack. We know what we're up against. We did not enter this fray blindly.
I think most people think Diddy probably did it. I don't think he has a lot of support as far as like the general population. I think most people are like, yeah, Diddy's cooked. He's going to jail for a long time. I'm sure Diddy probably does have a tight-knit circle that will try to protect him. I could understand concerns of victims like coming out and saying this happened because they could be potentially killed because of that circle that he has. But when it comes to like online, I don't see a lot of people supporting Diddy.
I wish it was my last such fray. I wish this type of behavior wasn't so pervasive. But it is what it is. So we will press on. As I said, our law firms have been retained by 120 individuals at this point to pursue cases in civil court against Sean Diddy Combs. You should know, in this group, it is evenly divided between males and females. There are 60 males and 60 females.
Does anyone know why Diddy came back to the U.S.? I didn't even know he left the U.S., to be honest.
Who have joined us to pursue these claims as plaintiffs. In this group, 62% identify as African American, 30% are white, and the remainder are Hispanic or Asian. The victims are from more than 25 states. The majority are from California, New York, Georgia, and Florida. And I want to focus on the ages of these victims. When we talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred, it's shocking. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15.
Jesus.
25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of. The time frame of the acts complained of is very wide. The conduct at issue spans from the years 1991 all the way till this year, 2024. If you wonder why there are so many alleged victims, that's your answer. We're talking about more than 25 years of this type of conduct. Now, although most of the victims who have stepped forward were victimized after 2015, this has been going on for a very long time.
I don't, maybe I'm wrong on this too. I don't remember Diddy being that popular as a musician, really ever. People usually would watch his videos because he was associated with Biggie. They wanted to see Biggie. Biggie was the big star, and Diddy just kind of happened to be there. You know, I can't think of any song where people are like, oh yeah, he was this, you know, Diddy was this great rapper. Like, I don't remember any of that. It seems like he just kind of got his break off of riding off of very successful rappers, getting some money, investing that money, building an empire from that, signing other artists. So I don't see any fan favor for Diddy at all, really. I'm sure lawyers everywhere are putting ads out. If you ever participated in a Diddy freak off, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of celebrities come forward with their Diddy stories now too. So I don't know, man.
Now, when you think about the fact that some of this conduct occurred 25 years ago, and you wonder why would it take somebody so long to step forward, I want to remind you that many states in the United States have recognized that it's very difficult for a victim to step forward and to make these types of allegations when something very terrible has happened to them. I'll use New York, the state of New York, as an example. The state of New York has specific statutes in place that revive claims that are even claims that would typically be not able to be brought, that it revives such claims, and they can be brought even 25 to 30 years later. Because there's a recognition there in New York and California and other states that
I think he got bigger as a producer. He had his hands in everything back in the day. Yeah, that's what I mean. He wasn't famous for like himself, you know, like he was this legendary rapper with what was it, Bad Boy Records or something like that. I don't think anyone's like, oh, here's Diddy with this hit song, but he kind of took his money and compounded into other things, you know, producing. And was he even that good of a producer really though? Or did he just have a label that he was out scouting talent and finding good people? And then he probably brought in like a engineer to make the music, you know?
That it's very difficult for a victim to come forward. And I would respectfully suggest the only reason many of these people are coming forward because they see other victims coming forward. And it gives them some comfort that, hey, I won't be the only one. And I expect more victims will come forward. You know, there's an old saying that says, a lie has great speed, but truth has endurance.
I had my mic off, but you said, and I didn't mean that hands pun either, which that's dirty. Real dirty.
The acts complained of in these cases that we're going to file occurred primarily in New York, either Manhattan or the Hamptons, or occurred in California, primarily in Los Angeles, or in Florida, primarily in Miami. Most of these events and incidents occurred at parties, typically after parties, or album release parties, New Year's Eve parties, 4th of July parties, something they called a puppy party, the all-white party, although several of these events occurred at auditions. Many times, especially young people wanting to break into the industry, were coerced into this type of conduct in the promise of being made a star, or in the promise of having Sean Combs listen to their tape or even let them read for Sean Combs. You should know that some of this behavior occurred at well-known venues in New York City. Some of this behavior occurred at private residences of people that we all know. Some of this behavior occurred at hotels that we're all familiar with. You should know that more than 55% of the victims filed reported this conduct to either the authorities, that is the police, or to hospitals. We're in the process of collecting with our team assistants medical records, reports that were made to the authorities, and I've already said that some of the individuals in this group did in fact talk to the FBI. You should know that several of the individuals, and when I say several, I mean many, who did in fact seek medical treatment were drug tested. And
besides Biggie, he introduced Mary J. Blige, Usher, and to some degree Justin Bieber. Yeah, I'm with you there, but it seems like he took money from Biggie, you know, getting famous from Biggie pretty much, and being on songs with Biggie, rolled that into his music industry to just sign the artist, you know? It wasn't like, let's say like Kanye West. People were like, oh yeah, he's really talented at producing all this music. I don't know if Biggie was actually, or not Biggie, Diddy was producing the music. I'm not that knowledgeable about any of this, but it just seems like he just took his money and compounded it. He didn't actually do a lot of the work. You know what I'm saying? He's not known for being like a Kanye West engineer. He's definitely not known for being a great rapper, you know, that kind of thing. But he is known for launching these people because he has money.
Drugs were found in their system, weird drugs that you probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called xylazine, or trank, which, based on our research, is known as a horse tranquilizer.
Jesus.
Now, there's been a lot of reports that we're filing a class action. This is not a class action. Class action is when one or two people file a case on behalf of a group of people. That's not this. These cases will be individual cases.
See, that's why I'm saying he's cooked. Individual cases, he is never getting out.
Each case will live and die on its own merit. These cases will be filed individually, one plaintiff against whoever the defendants were
230 different cases? Come on.
Involved in the case. Each case may be filed in one venue like California. Another case may be filed in New York. One case may sue just Sean Combs, but multiple other people. One case may sue a range of people. I would expect most, though, to be filed, as I said, thinking or hoping or perhaps believing that I may start naming names. Well, that day will come, but it won't be today.
Oof. That's your question right there. He said maybe one day he'll start naming names.
The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names.
All right. Give us
It's
some
a long
names.
list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, are names that will shock you. These are individual cases. there are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. And I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on.
That day will never come. Well, maybe the year 21, 24. You don't think so? They're not going to name any of the celebrities at all? I think they might name a couple of them, you know?
They know who they are.
There's not going to be like a huge list or anything coming out. I don't think it's going to get that serious.
I call them the facilitators of foul play, willing participants in vile conduct. As we identify them, each will be part of this case as defendants. These defendants will not only include individuals, but would also include corporate entities who ultimately profited off of this culture and behavior. I'm looking at banks, pharmaceutical companies, hotels. We know that many of these individuals were paid cash. We know that many of these individuals involved, whether they were the ones being assaulted and abused or they're witnessing other people being assaulted and abused and then paid and threatened and told to leave. Typically paid 10 grand in cash and told to leave. And then threatened as they were leaving. So in addition to Sean Combs, you should know the defendants in these cases we're going to file will include anyone, of course, who engaged in the assault or exploitation, anyone who participated in such in any way, anyone who encouraged or facilitated this conduct, anyone who was in the room and watched it happen but made no effort to stop it, any venue or venue owner who was aware of what was going on but failed to stop it, any individual or entity who knew about the conduct and benefited from it but did nothing to report it or stop it, and any individual or entity who covered it up or helped cover it up. These people who know who they are.
Oh, these people are screwed. I'm sure the names released will be on one side of the political spectrum. Wouldn't that just be reality for us? Wouldn't that just be the truth?
Should just come forward now. I would imagine, as we speak here, there are a myriad of people who are very nervous. You can't hide skeletons in the closet forever. I would expect there are many people out there right now who are desperately searching their memories as they delete their texts and data.
Oh yeah, and Twitter.
Now, although these are in fact individual cases, there is a common theme, an MO, if you will. Typically, the victim is lured into a situation where he or she is given a drink. Typically, that drink, reported by these victims, is apparently laced with something.
The old Cosby treatment.
Once that drink takes effect, the perpetrators perform all kinds of sexual acts on the victims, many times passing him or her around as other people watch and enjoy the show, and then leave the victim ashamed, confused, injured, and wondering what happened. When the victim...
Do you think his hair always looks like that, or is this what he did for the press conference after a night of celebration bender? Oh yeah, for sure. This dude's about to be rich. Hands down, he's gonna win, and he's gonna win so much money and 230 cases of winning. This guy's loaded.
The victim reaches out. He or she is told not to say anything. Sometimes there are threats of physical violence or financial repercussions or bodily harm.
I think I read something where Diddy's lawyer was saying he was going to like play the race card. Like that was his defense. Like, oh, they're targeting him because he's a black man. Like that was his defense. Dude, he's cooked. He's going away. Any judge is going to look at that and start just laughing.
The claims we intend to bring will include the following: violent sexual assault or rape, sexual abuse, facilitated sex with a controlled substance, false imprisonment, compelling prostitution, sexual misconduct, dissemination of video recordings, false imprisonment, sexual abuse of minors. Given the large volume of cases and given our other docket obligations, and given the fact that we want to be sure when we file these cases that they are fully vetted, I expect we'll start filing these cases against Sean Combs and other perpetrators within the next 30 days. Now, it's rare, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, this type of activity is pervasive in our society, and it's rare we get a chance where we can really focus on this as a country and really focus on this about how pervasive this is and what we as collectively can do about it. So I thought I'd take this opportunity before I go into some of the individual cases and talk about some of the individual claims being made and so you'll get a sense of what this 120 people group looks like individually.
Oh, this is about to get graphic. I can already tell. I sure hope those ladies next to this guy aren't the victims. Imagine hearing all this again. That's what I was thinking. Like, are they the victims and they're going to come up and talk about their experience? Like, that's kind of messed up a little bit. And how is this working? So he got raided by the feds, right? So there's, I'm assuming, federal charges, and now he has these individual cases as well, 230. So he's going up against the feds. The feds are probably going to give him life. Nobody beats the feds, right? Typically. There's been few that have, but typically nobody beats the feds. And then he has all these charges. There's no way he's getting out. He's absolutely done.
Individually, I want to bring forward Carrie Paul. She's a national victim advocate.
Oh.
Who helped
victim advocate. I thought he was going to say she's a victim of this crime. Oh, Jesus.
Helps victims who have been victimized by this type of conduct. And she has some important words, and I hope you'll pay close attention. I think it's important that you hear from her.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Carrie Paul with the National Victim Advocate. It's not easy for any survivor to come forward. Our culture doesn't believe survivors. It blames and questions them. Instead of showing support, many choose to enable abusers. The media runs stories asking why it took so long for survivors to come forward instead of asking what barriers exist. We also don't equip law enforcement with the ability to handle sexual assault crimes. Lack of funding translates to lack of training. We have officers in the field that don't know what to say to a rape victim, and also an alarming amount of backlogged, untested rape kits. Prosecutors are focused on what they can prove in a case, and if so, how to do that at time of trial. Advocates and staff are stretched thin with growing caseloads in the criminal justice system. Most people don't know how the criminal justice works in general. There isn't enough staff or resources to adequately explain the entire process to every victim and survivor.
Don't know what will happen. Look at Deshaun Watson. I don't know that person, but I totally think Diddy's done. He is, especially with the Netflix documentary coming out as well, and they have all of these charges, and one of them is the feds. Like, come on. He's so done.
Our culture works against victims and survivors every day, and abusers know this. Abusers work themselves into positions of power, building a public image that is trusted and financially large enough to make people look away. Abusers are unfortunately very skilled at power and control, the foundation of abuse. They seek victims who are vulnerable, such as children, their employees, and their intimate partners, all who see a different version than the public does, all who rely on the abuser in some way. And for those that do come forward and aren't believed, face questions like, are you sure it happened that way? Were you drinking? What were you wearing? All of this creates an environment that enables abusers to continue abusing them and future victims. To the survivors that have come forward despite not being believed at some point in time, your courage is like nothing we have seen before. We thank you for coming forward for yourself and all survivors. And lastly, I want all survivors that are watching this to know we believe you and we support you. Thank you.
All right.
I want you now to hear from my co-counsel, Andrew Van Arsdale. We've created a sexual abuse hotline, and I want him to visit with us just a few moments about how that works and the kind of volume of calls we've received.
Thank you, Tony. Like Tony said, my name is Andrew Van Arsdale. I'm the managing partner of ABA Law Group. We have offices in California, Montana, and North Carolina. To build off of what you just so well said, it's very hard to come forward. And given what we've experienced the past 10 days is really unprecedented in my career, at least. We represent thousands of survivors of abuse, and never, ever in a 10-day period have we seen over 3,000 people come forward, or we've confirmed and decided to investigate and represent 120 people while we're continuing to work through another 100 plus cases to prove them up, to validate what had happened here, and to hold those that are responsible accountable. And so like Tony said, we've set this up. It's 1-800-200-7474. I have a team of people standing by literally. If you know that this happened to someone and you have information about it, please contact us. If this happened to you, come forward. There's attorney-client privilege here. What you tell us is in confidence. Yes, we'll have to go out and build your case, but we will protect you. And the other thing that I want to say is the pattern and practice of this, again, is unprecedented. Over 30 plus years of the same sort of events happening, people thrust into the circle reportedly, and horrible things happening to them as a result. And from talking to these people that have come forward these past 10 days, I can tell you unequivocally that because the federal government did what it needed to do and indicted this man, that they put him in jail and a judge kept him in jail, they tell me directly, this validates my feelings. For so long, I thought it was my fault. What is it about me that put myself in that scenario? What was I wearing at the time? What did I do to be subjected to such horrific treatment at these people that I was trying to trust? We know now it was not your fault. You were victimized by a group of powerful people that operated for 30 plus years, taking advantage of their wealth and the power that they held within the music industry. So again, thank you to every single person that has come forward and contacted our office over the past 10 days. If you or someone you know suffered the same sort of treatment, please contact us at the number behind me and we will help you. Thank you.
I think it speaks to how important this issue is in the United States and frankly internationally, that we have reputable people here that want to provide kind of information that I think victims need to hear, witnesses need to hear, the public needs to hear. Let me introduce to you now Olivia Rivers from the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault. and let her visit with you a few moments about these types of cases.
So they're not bringing victims.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Q Olivia Rivers. I am just served my 6th year as the board chair for the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault. I'm also the CEO for the Bridge Over Troubled Waters, which is a local rape crisis center here in the Houston area. So thank you for being here as we address these heinous crimes. Sexual assault is not just a crime of violence against the body. It's an assault on the very essence of human dignity and safety. It shatters lives, it destroys confidence, and all too often, it leaves survivors feeling like they are voiceless, isolated, and vulnerable. The reality for many survivors is that coming forward to report their assault is one of the most difficult and daunting tasks that they will ever have to do. And for some, it may take days, months, or even years to speak up, if they ever do. The reasons for this have been mentioned, but include the fear of being disbelieved, being blamed or judged, and of course, retaliation. The trauma of the assault itself being compounded by the trauma of the criminal justice process, where survivors must relive their experience in order to seek justice. And these feelings and fears are further exacerbated when the allegations are against prominent figures in the entertainment industry or Hollywood. Cases involving powerful figures often attract significant media attention, which can deter victims from coming forward due to fear of public exposure or scrutiny. The intense focus on these high-profile cases can make survivors feel that their personal lives are being put under a microscope, causing further emotional distress. These allegations mentioned here today, as reported, reflect deeply troubling claims that deserve thorough investigation, and no individual, regardless of their stature, is above the law or public accountability. Sadly, the statistics paint a very disturbing picture. According to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men will experience some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. In the U.S. alone, there are approximately 463,000 victims of rape or sexual assault every year, and these numbers barely scratch the surface, as sexual violence remains one of the most underreported crimes.
But Diddy was getting guys too. It wasn't just women. Yeah, he didn't care. He was a savage.
The numbers that follow tell an even more troubling story. Only about 23% of sexual assaults are reported to law enforcement. Of those, just 5% lead to an arrest, and even fewer, less than 1% of reported cases, ever result in a conviction, which is a devastating gap between the crime and the justice that survivors deserve. I want to briefly focus on our state here in Texas. According to the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault, 6.3 million Texans, men and women, will experience some form of violence. That's every 2 minutes someone is sexually assaulted, meaning during the course of this press conference, around 60 individuals will forever be changed by this violence. And those are just a few of the victims. Obviously, this is unacceptable. We cannot allow this cycle of silence and inaction to continue. We have to create an environment where survivors feel empowered to come forward, where they are met with empathy and respect and support, not skepticism and blame. We have to ensure that our legal system is equipped to handle these cases with the seriousness they deserve, and that survivors have access to the resources that they need beyond the legal courtroom. We have to address the root causes of this epidemic: prevention, awareness, and fostering environments where respect, consent, and safety are non-negotiable values. Additionally, support for survivors has to be holistic. They have to have access to counseling, medical services, legal advocacy, and of course, community support, regardless of whether they choose to report or not. To every survivor who has come forward, your bravery is an inspiration. To those who are still grappling with their decision, know that you are not alone and that your voice matters. Your story matters. We see you, we believe you, and we are committed to fighting for a future where sexual violence is no longer tolerated and where justice is not the exception, but the standard. Thank you.
I want to visit with you real quickly before we close here about some specific instances without disclosing the victim's name. You probably know that depending on the age of the victim, you can file these cases, these individual cases, under Jane Doe or John Doe. Each state is different in that respect. Typically, there is a balancing test, like the public's right to know the name of the victim and plaintiff versus versus the confidentiality and the safety of the plaintiff. So we'll have to struggle with that with each one of these cases. Our intention, of course, is to, like we always do, file these cases under a pseudonym until the court tells us otherwise. But let me share with you a few, just kind of give you a sense of the kind of cases and the kind of instances that people are calling and reporting that we are trying to corroborate, vet, and these are the ones that we've already corroborated, vetted, and collected evidence on. One individual who was 22 years at the time she was assaulted said that the typical MO at one of these parties that have been widely discussed in the press was that when you were handed a drink, and now we know that the drink is laced with something, if you refused to drink it, you were kicked out of the party. Now let that sink in for a minute. I mean, the admission to this party.
Who would let their young teenage child go to one of these parties? I think there's a lot of like messed up parents, man. They think their kid's gonna be a star, they're gonna be associating with all these people, and I don't know, I wouldn't let my kids go, that's for sure. But there's a lot of bad parents out there, that's for sure.
Was that you had to drink the chosen drink that was handed to you, and now we know that in most cases, I would say 90% of the cases, these individuals were drugged with some sort of drug. That was kind of the MO. Another instance, this individual who was 9 years old at the time, was taken to a audition in New York City with Bad Boy Records. Other boys were there to audition as well. All of them were trying to land a record deal. All of them were minors.
See, that's what I'm talking about. They're trying to get their kid to be famous, get a record deal. That's why they're letting them go to these parties.
This individual was sexually abused, allegedly, by Sean Combs.
A 9-year-old? I didn't know it was that bad. Like, Jesus, a 9-year-old? Come on, man. The fuck? So what kind of parents would let their kid go to these parties? Bad parents. How about that? Terrible parents.
And several other people at the studio in the promise to both his parents and to him himself.
See, the parents knew about it. What the hell?
Getting a record deal. Another instance, another minor, told allegedly by Sean Combs that he would make him a star, but he needed to visit with him in private about it, away from his parents. Once they were in a private area, allegedly Mr. Combs made the victim perform oral sex upon him. Another incident, an individual 15 years old at the time, flown to New York City to attend a party, was drugged, and then taken into a private room, allegedly in the presence of Mr. Combs, where this female individual, minor, was raped, and then other individuals took turns raping her.
That's just insane. Okay, a lot of people. Yeah, apparently just a bunch of terrible parents. What did they think was going to happen? Like, come on.
Another individual, 26 at the time of the occurrence, was picked up allegedly by Mr. Combs and several other people in a black SUV from the airport, was given one drink in the SUV, and then literally woke up the next day not knowing what had happened, but with pain and damage to both her vagina and her anus, where she then went to the hospital. She was missing her underwear and her shoes.
Jesus.
Another instance, the individual, this time not a minor, attended a group dinner, allegedly with Sean Combs in Miami. She wasn't drinking because she was pregnant.
These people need to disappear? Yeah, absolutely. We need to wipe these people off the face of the planet.
But whatever she drank at the table, apparently, at least according to her, was laced with something. She blacked out, and she woke up in the same bed, again, allegedly, with Mr. Combs in his mansion in Miami. Her vagina and her anus were torn and sore. And I could go on. I mean, literally, you're sensing a theme here. It's the same theme, and it all involves some sort of drug. One instance, an individual who was 20 years old at the time was asked to attend, just saw her on the street, asked to attend a party in a hotel. She was flattered, went to the party, was given one drink and doesn't remember anything else. Ultimately, was so messed up, went to the hospital where they found cocaine and this horse tranquilizer in her blood system. I want to give you a quote from a very young man who told us over the phone about his experience and all the things that happened to him, he says, allegedly at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs and his friends in the effort to try to sign a record deal. This was kind of what he was told he would have to do. His quote is, "Had he not been in power, I feel like I could have been something great. I quit the industry because of what Sean Combs did to me." And that's really what it comes down to. We are pursuing this, asking you to support this effort, to encourage witnesses and victims to come forward and bring your evidence so we can continue to break down this wall of silence and we can continue to have these stories heard. This is the beginning of what I hope to be a national dialogue. This type of sexual assault, sexual abuse, and sexual exploitation should never happen in the United States or anywhere else. This should have never been allowed to go on for so long. This conduct has created a mass of individuals who are injured, scared, and scarred. If you are one of those individuals, we ask you to reach out. If not to us, to someone you trust. If you are someone who witnessed any of these events, we ask you to reach out. Your name can remain confidential. With that, I'll take a few questions, not many, maybe two.
Oh, he's taking
but
questions.
if you have a question, I'll be pleased to try to answer it.
Here we go.
Perfect.
How many minors are making accusations in total, and are the feds aware of the allegations of minors in the case?
I don't know what the feds are aware of, okay, but I do know it's 25 out of this 120.
Okay.
And Tony,
But I will say this to that point. We welcome the FBI or any authority who wants to come to us, and we're going to make that available to these victims because I think that's important. My suspicion is, based on talking with these folks, is that the FBI is just not aware of these people. The FBI has talked to some of these folks, and I'm going to try to encourage the victims to, in fact, talk to the FBI because I think they have some very important things to say.
Tony, were all of the children auditioning because they were musicians, or were any of them kids of employees or anything like that?
All seeking either TV or some sort of music career.
Wow.
With promises of, we're going to make you a star.
Jesus.
Instead, basically did things to them such that they don't want to have anything to do with the entertainment industry ever again. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your attention. We're going to go now. Thank you.
Well, that was super depressing. Oh, more questions.
File here. There's a few plaintiffs here, but I don't anticipate filing them here. Probably in New York City.
Mm.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's that. That was depressing. Whew. Big yikes. Big yikes, that's for sure. All right, well, I'm gonna go build my patio set. Try to enjoy this Saturday. It's stuff like that I think population reduction should happen. Yeah, they gotta do something about him for sure. That's disgusting. Oh, it's just insane. My God, man. I don't know what's gonna come of it, but I'm gonna track it and I'm gonna watch the Netflix documentary when it comes out. I tried looking it up to see what kind of date for when they were gonna release it, the 50 Cent one. I couldn't find it. It says to be determined. So when it comes out, I'll definitely be watching it. But anyway, I'm gonna go build the patio set. So I'll see y'all.